It was a crisp autumn morning in New York City, and the streets buzzed with the usual chaos of city life. Amid the bustle, a sleek black luxury SUV pulled into the lot of a small auto repair shop on the outskirts of Manhattan. The shop was unassuming, with a faded sign that read Joe's Auto Works, but it had a reputation for being one of the best in the area for quick fixes. Behind the wheel of the SUV sat Barron Trump. At 19 years old, he was known to the world for his famous last name, but to those who actually knew him, he was just a reserved, intelligent young man who preferred to keep a low profile. Today, however, he wasn't exactly blending in, as his high-end vehicle and impeccable attire made him stand out in the gritty surroundings of the shop. Barron stepped out of the car, dressed casually in a designer hoodie and jeans, but the quiet confidence he carried made it clear he wasn't your average customer. He glanced at the flat tire on his SUV, his expression calm but slightly frustrated. He had been on his way to an important charity event when the tire issue struck, and now he was in a race against time to get it fixed. Inside the shop, Joe, the owner, sat behind the counter sipping coffee and reading the sports section of the newspaper. Joe was in his late 50s, with grease-stained hands and a gruff demeanor that made it clear he didn't have much patience for nonsense. When Barron walked in, Joe barely glanced up, assuming it was another typical customer. "Morning," Barron said politely. "I've got a flat tire on my SUV. Can you help me out?" Joe finally looked up, and his eyes scanned Barron from head to toe. The boy's clean-cut appearance and expensive clothes immediately set off alarms in Joe's mind. He had dealt with his fair share of entitled customers over the years, and he assumed Barron was just another spoiled rich kid looking to throw money at a problem. "Yeah, we're pretty busy today," Joe replied gruffly, gesturing toward the garage, where a few mechanics were working on other vehicles. "You're gonna have to wait." Barron glanced at the garage and noticed that while there were a couple of cars being worked on, the place wasn't exactly bustling with activity. He turned and walked out, leaving Joe shaking his head and muttering under his breath. As Barron got back into his SUV, he pulled out his phone and began searching for another nearby repair shop. He quickly found one a few miles away and decided to give it a try. Meanwhile, back inside the shop, one of Joe's mechanics, a young man named Danny, approached the counter. Danny had overheard the exchange and couldn't help but feel uneasy about how Joe had treated the customer. "Hey, Joe," Danny said hesitantly. "That guy with the SUV, do you know who he was?" Joe snorted. "Yeah, some rich kid who thinks the world revolves around him." "Why?" Danny lowered his voice. "I think that was Barron Trump. You know, the former president's son." Joe's smirk faltered for a split second before he shrugged it off. "So what? Doesn't matter who he is. I don't care about politics, and I definitely don't care about some kid riding on his daddy's coattails." Danny frowned. "Still, maybe you shouldn't have been so quick to dismiss him. Word gets around, you know?" Joe waved him off. "Relax, Dan. The kid'll survive. He's got money, doesn't he? Let him figure it out." But as the hours passed, Joe couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he might have made a mistake. And that feeling turned into a full-blown panic when, later that afternoon, a sleek black sedan pulled into the lot. Out stepped a middle-aged man in a tailored suit, carrying an air of authority that immediately made Joe nervous. The man introduced himself as Alan Reed, the CEO of a luxury automotive brand. He handed Joe his business card and wasted no time getting to the point. "I understand you had a customer here earlier today, a young man with a black SUV," Reed began. Joe's face paled. Yeah, I remember him." "Why?" Reed's expression was serious. "That young man is not just any customer. He's Barron Trump, and he's a key investor in our company. He also happens to be someone I deeply respect. He mentioned his experience here, and I have to say, I'm disappointed." Joe stammered, trying to come up with an excuse. "But I didn't realize who he was. If I'd known." Reed held up a hand to cut him off. "It shouldn't matter who he is. Every customer deserves to be treated with respect. But since you seem to care so much about status, let me make this clear. Barron Trump isn't just another rich kid. He's been quietly supporting businesses like ours, helping people like you stay in business. And you turned him away." Joe felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. I didn't mean to offend him. Please, let him know I'm sorry." Reed shook his head. "I'm not here to deliver apologies. I'm here to make sure you understand the consequences of your actions. Don't expect any business from us in the future. Good day." With that, Reed walked out, leaving Joe standing there in stunned silence. Meanwhile, at the second repair shop, Barron had been greeted with professionalism and kindness. The mechanics quickly fixed his tire and even refused to accept payment when they realized who he was, though Barron insisted on leaving a generous tip. As he drove away, Barron couldn't help but reflect on the day's events. He had encountered prejudice and kindness in equal measure, and while the experience had been frustrating, it had also reaffirmed his belief in treating everyone with dignity, no matter their status. Back at Joe's auto works, the fallout from Joe's behavior continued. Word spread quickly about what had happened, and soon the shop began losing customers. Joe realized too late that his snap judgment had cost him not just one customer, but his reputation. Barron, on the other hand, continued to go about his life with the same quiet humility that had always defined him. And while he never sought revenge or retribution, the lesson he had imparted, intentionally or not, served as a powerful reminder that respect and kindness should never depend on appearances.